golden palaces, completely full of riches. I'll rip them off and rob them blind, those dirty sons of bitches. Look out, Vegas. I'm taking over! You want to try your luck? What happened? He bit me. 2 leprechauns is one too many. A lucky sign. The gold inside will soon be mine.
Hi, and welcome to another film review. This time I'll be discussing the 1995 horror comedy film Leprechaun 3, directed by Brian Trenchard-Smith and starring Warwick Davis, John Gattins, Lee Armstrong, and Caroline Williams. The premise involves an evil leprechaun, Warwick Davis, who terrorizes and murders anyone that tries to take his pot of gold. When Scott, John Gattins, steals one of his gold coins, the leprechaun embarks on a mission to retrieve it. Anyone that gets in his way, it may end up costing them their life, including Tammy, Lee Armstrong, a young magician's assistant who Scott ends up meeting on his way to college and takes a liking to. The Leprechaun franchise was never meant to be taken seriously. They are over-the-top silly fun with average acting at best, ridiculous and over-the-top deaths. Warwick Davis as the hideously looking leprechaun is the star of these movies and what holds them together. If you want to turn your brain off and not have something too complicated and plot heavy and just have a laugh, then the Leprechaun series is for you. An advantage of these films is that you don't have to follow them in any particular order, and each one is self-contained. No characters, except for the Leprechaun, of course, ever return for the next installment. Also, how the leprechaun can be harmed tends to be different from one film to the next. I have the first 4 Leprechaun movies in a DVD 4-pack, which includes Leprechaun 3, being the best one in my eyes. There are 6 Warwick Davis ones in total in the Leprechaun series to date. One of the reasons that this is my favourite installment is the choice of setting. The city of Las Vegas was the perfect location to go for. The general gambling theme, with the many casinos and the pursuit of money, material wealth and greed, ties in well with the leprechaun and his obsession with his gold and not wanting to part with it. The future settings of space and the hood just don't have a natural fit like this one did. And if a leprechaun was ever going to choose a town to move to, it would be Las Vegas. Also, having a casino called the Lucky Shamrock, where one of the characters, Tammy, works at, was icing on the cake. A second reason I enjoyed Leprechaun 3 is how we are first introduced to the leprechaun. The movie starts out with a man dropping off a statue of a leprechaun with a medallion around its neck at a pawn shop in order to get money for petrol so that he can leave town. We find out that the medallion keeps the evil leprechaun frozen within the statue, and if removed, he will come to life. The man even tells the pawn shop broker, Gupta, not to remove it, but of course he does. I thought this was a great idea and had one envisioning that maybe the leprechaun was defeated by a magical sorcerer centuries ago by being trapped in the statue with the medallion the sorcerer created. I did put a question to the actual director when he was being interviewed by a friend, Video Tasties, on his YouTube channel stream, if they were initially going to shoot a scene about how he first became locked in the statue, and Brian commented that it wasn't thought about. Finding out a little bit more about the Leprechaun, at least in this installment, was a nice aspect to throw in there. For example, Gupta, the pawn shop owner, has a CD-ROM about Irish folklore, and he learns that leprechauns are very territorial and hate it if there's more than one of them nearby, that they have a fondness for potatoes, and his power lies in his gold, and that destroying it destroys him, but human beings being greedy would be less likely to do this. Another idea I was happy with that they introduced in Leprechaun 3 was the use of wishes that were tied to possessing a gold coin. A person could have anything they wanted, but only one wish per person. This happens when Scott goes to pawn his grandfather's watch for cash after he loses $23,000 at the roulette table and is desperate to win it back. He finds a gold coin in the shop and then wishes he had a winning streak. Scott finds himself back at the casino where he starts winning big, clocking up $100,000 in cash. However, two unscrupulous employees of the Lucky Shamrock, Fazio the magician, who Tammy works under, and Loretta, played by Caroline Williams, along with Mitch, the manager, uncover this information and make wishes themselves, resulting in crazy and hilarious deaths when the leprechaun tracks them down looking for the missing coin. Loretta's death had me laughing. Her character wishes she was younger and has the body of a 20-something. The wish works, but the leprechaun shows up and makes her lips, breasts, and butt grow to gigantic proportions, where she ends up getting stuck in a doorway and explodes. Fazio meets a nasty demise when the leprechaun transports him into a box used in one of his magic tricks, where he proceeds to use a chainsaw to slice down the middle of it, cutting his body in half in front of a live audience, where you see the insides of Fazio's body. Blood spurts out of his mouth. The idea of having Scott being bitten on the arm and his body start to transition into becoming a leprechaun drew a mixed reaction to me. It was positive on the one hand in that this was new and we hadn't seen this before. It was interesting in that Scott was able to obtain some of the leprechaun's powers in being able to move various objects. However, his facial appearance looked more like that of a cheap-looking werewolf than a leprechaun. Also, I thought in the final showdown between Scott and the leprechaun, more could have been made of this. For example, a real battle of their powers and more of an extensive display of them. This didn't happen. The movie had a good use of funny limericks when the leprechaun interacts with people and you come to expect them whenever he is around. For example, one of them is said in the pawn shop with Gupta as he is trying to make a deal with the leprechaun in order to keep half his gold and save his life. Here is a short clip of it.
There was an old man of Madras whose balls were made of fine brass. So in stormy weather, they both climbed together, and sparks flew out of his ass!
One bizarre moment in Leprechaun 3 is where you see a person using a slot machine inside a hospital, of all places, and a blink and you'll miss it Easter egg where you see the director's signature at the bottom of the $23,000 check Scott's parents give him to use for his college tuition and housing costs. I thought one of the main leads, Tammy, and the actress that played her was very attractive and easy on the eye, especially the scene where she is under the control of Mitch's wish and is doing half a striptease in his room, which was to have him be irresistible to women. Leprechaun 3 was the first in the franchise to go straight to the rental market and not to cinemas. It went on to become the highest selling independent direct-to-video film of 1995. Leprechaun 2 would be my second best favourite movie of the Leprechaun series, and I may review that another time. Well, thank you very much for listening to my review of Leprechaun 3, and have a great day.